Welcome once more to Equestria Girl. Wait, what's Equestria? Now with 100% less sound filtering, so yeah, it's just gonna keep getting better and better, isn't it? Oh, why am I still recording these? I mean, really. Anyway, Chapter 6, which is still unnamed. Should probably name it. My Faithful Student. No, that's horrible. Screw it. My Faithful Student, Chapter 6. Twilight knocked on the door. "Come in," said the voice from inside. Celestia had just been filling out paperwork up until now. She actually had prepared for this meeting and had Twilight's paper put aside and ready. As Twilight came in, she stood politely with her hands clasped. "Please, take a seat, Twilight." "Thank you, Principal Celestia. So, you know me, too?" Twilight replied as she took a seat. She wasn't entirely surprised by this, of course. She doubted anything would surprise her from here out, or anything ever for that matter compared to all this. "No, I don't. I knew the other you, but I heard everything you said up on the assembly, and I feel awful. When I saw your enrollment forms, I assumed it was the other you. Has anybody told you about what happened and why everyone knows you?" For some reason, Celestia is British. Let's roll with it. Yeah, I found out most of it. I guess you've guessed why I'm here," she said, but didn't get a reply. Instead, Celestia just gave her a knowing look, but she actually had no idea. The look just made most people say what they had planned as to confirm what Celestia was thinking. "I'd like to transfer back to my old school." "Yes, I thought as much," she lied convincingly, grabbing the papers she set aside. Some were enrollment forms and others were her grades and records. Twilight's grades were nearly flawless. Well, with the exception of one F in third grade gym.
Jim? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard!
"You transferred here for our school's higher rating and more advanced classes that other schools don't offer. While I understand why you might want to leave, I would strongly advise against it." "I know, but I just can't stay here," Twilight said, looking away. She'd come to the conclusion that today wasn't a bad day, but it still had its bad points, and the forefront of that was the brief meeting with, what was his name? Brad? Close enough. "Look, I don't want to be known by everyone. Whether they know me or not, they still know about me. And I can understand that." The records also indicated some of her traits and mental conditions, another reason she'd been sent here. For some reason or another, with no actual reason like special support, this school had the highest percentage of students with some sort of disability, be it mental, physical, or otherwise. Simply put, this school was known for having some rather insane occurrences, even before last year's fall formal.
All the ponies in this town are crazy!
"So, you'll transfer me back?" Twilight asked, hoping that's all it would take. "If it's what you really want, then I will," Celestia said, lifting Twilight's spirits. "However, it will take some time. Early next week at the soonest. But I would like to ask you a favor, though. Reconsider. This school is the best available for you in this town, possibly this state. Go to your classes, meet your teachers, and perhaps make some friends." "What if I still don't want to stay?" "Then once everything's ready, if you still want to transfer, all it will take is a signature from your parents," Celestia replied reassuringly. She was quite good at that. "And just so you know, your friends have been given detention tomorrow for getting up on the stage and using the speaker system without permission. If you'd like, I can keep them there and away from you for a few days longer." "No, that's okay. Actually, I feel a little bad that you're punishing them for me." "Well, they would have gotten detention for that anyway." Celestia chuckled slightly, and Twilight followed suit. "Twilight, my faithful student, insert Family Guy clip here. If there is anything I can help you with, do not hesitate to ask." "Thank you, Principal Celestia," Twilight said as she stood up. "Just Celestia will be fine," she replied before returning to her paperwork. "Thank you, Celestia," Twilight said, receiving a brief smile before Celestia was deep into her work once more. She quietly left the office and headed off. However, she'd forgotten what had happened with Syl. Turned around as she was, Twilight ended up coming out the back of the school rather than the front. It didn't really matter much. She could just walk around the side after all. So she did. Unfortunately, as luck would have it, which was weird because her luck had been so good today, she rounded the corner and then quickly ducked back behind it. Pressing her back up against the wall, she started to hyperventilate. Also, she'd forgotten everything in her locker. But that wasn't important. The only reason she'd remembered that at all was because she wanted another thick hardback book to hit him with again. Brad was just around the corner, right next to where she needed to go. There wasn't anyone else around either. Well, there were a few around the corner, but what she meant by that was there was no one around this side of the corner to see her totally spazzing out as her chest went up and down about 3 times a second. She was breathing so fast and heavily. Maybe she could just wait him out. He'd leave sooner or later. She peeked her head around the corner and, "Hey," Brad said solemnly as she stood just around the corner. "Sorry about..." Twilight screamed, spinning the rest of her body around the corner, along with bringing both her arms up to his head, slamming him into the wall. She definitely, defiantly, which that joke is really bad in text, and it's bad in real life either. I should, I'd delete it, but it's actually a core part of the story in like 7 chapters from now. Spoilers. Fuck it, I'm leaving that in. She defiantly had the fight part of fight or flight down pat. Now to execute the flight part as she ran past him towards... He grabbed her arm as she did. She screamed again, this one not from shock like the last, but from fear. "Wait, please," he said calmly yet forcefully, now bruised on both sides of his face. He managed to make eye contact with her. He wasn't angry in the slightest and almost looked as scared as she did. He released his grip on her arm, and despite seeing her chance, Twilight didn't run. "Look, I'm sorry about this morning. I thought you were someone else. And I wasn't the only one, from what I heard." No, you weren't, but you were the first," Twilight replied, recognizing that he must have thought exactly what she did, that he'd hurt her. Sure, she'd hurt him too, but, who doesn't want to smash Flash Sentry in the face with a textbook? I know I do. "Sunset shit. The redhead was talking to you when I found you. Didn't she confuse you with Twilight Sparkle?" "No. Well, yes. But... listen, Brad," Twilight said, but Flash decided not to bother with the name clarification, thus dooming himself to be forever named Brad henceforth in this series. "I mean, that was my first kiss, and you stole it, thinking I was another girl." "Oh, jeez. I'm sorry. I didn't think about it like that. I thought a cute girl like you would have... Not that I'm trying to hit on you, or suggesting anything about you, or... I'll just shut up, okay?" "Please do," Twilight moped. "Brad, my name is Twilight Sparkle, but I'm not that Twilight. I just want to be me, and me wants to be left alone." "Yeah, that's cool," Brad said, extending a hand to shake. And that's what made this entire non-ship fic become a slow progression to these two hooking up at the end.
No hands.
She said, moving his hand aside and pulling him into a hug. Then remembering he wouldn't get that joke and pulling away. She looked at him for a moment before turning and leaving without saying a word. Brad stood there for a moment. He didn't go after her. Why would he? But he had to wonder. Was she that different from the old Twilight? He'd been her first kiss. Maybe he could make it up to her by being her first boyfriend. One that would treat her right. He thought about it for a moment before finally making up his mind. That was a terrible idea. But he couldn't help but think, is it weird I know all the lyrics to Guy Love? He looked around to check no one was within earshot before he quietly began to say,
"Guy Love, that's all it is. Guy Love, he's mine, I'm his."
And that was chapter 6. Remember last week when I said I deleted an entire scene because it was too dependent on a reference that most people might not get? remember about 10 seconds ago when I used that same reference to finish off a chapter in a way that was kind of stupid and made no sense? Well, ta-da! God damn. Fun fact, seems I've already broken the illusion that I'm writing these and recording these at the same time. I do record these about a week in advance before posting the chapter, but I usually don't edit them until the night before. Not sure why that's relevant at all, I just wanted to bring it up. And there goes some of my hair falling from a sword. That may sound weird, but that was actually true and just happened. Finally, I would like to point out that the line, "Twilight's grades were nearly flawless," well, with the exception of an F in 3rd grade gym, is a Simpsons reference. You know, the one where she gets an F in 3rd grade gym. She, of course, refers to Marge. I'm just kidding. Maggie. Anyway. The end. I can understand that. For some reason I sound like Octavia. Oh, I love birds. Yes, I sound like Octavia. Do I? I don't actually know. This will be the first time I've heard myself saying like this while recording, but it sounds quite accurate to me. A roommate who washes the dishes. She's perfect, right? Except she cleans them with wubs. That probably sounds horrible. Oh, fish and chips. Seriously, what the hell is this accent? I can't do a Celestia accent, so I'm just doing authoritative British. Fuck it. Authoritative British. Celestia is now British. Confirmed canon as of Season 4, Episode 27. Confirmed. This school had the highest percentages. Fucking. He said, oh, fuck me. He said, oh, fuck me. That's right. He said, oh, fuck me. Twilight said, alright, I'll fuck you. And then they fucked. The end. Alright, that was a pretty good story. I mean, it had a bit of wobbly bit, but I reckon the Klopp scene was amazing. Like, he looked around to check no one was... No one... Fuck, how did no one pick up those horrible spelling? Fuck. I've got 4 proofreaders doing this and none of them noticed it. God damn. Well, then again, it's like 30,000 words at this point. You can't expect him to pick it all up. It's guy love, that's all it is. Guy love, his mind on his.